Hi guys, this week's fraction lesson is on comparing fractions with different denominators. So remember, the denominator of a fraction is the bottom number, and that tells us how many pieces are part of the whole. So last week we compared fractions with the same denominator, and all we had to do was actually look at the numerator, the top number, and it was actually pretty easy. This week it gets a little bit more challenging. When you're comparing fractions with different denominators, you cannot look at just the numerator. So I have an example here where the numerators are the same, okay? I have one fraction cut into eighths, and then I have another one cut into fourths. Now the numerators are the same. We can't rely on those because when you have different denominators, your pieces are going to be different sizes. So this first circle here is cut into eighths. You can see that these pieces are actually way smaller than the pieces from the circle that's cut into fourths. So I'm gonna go ahead and color these in to show 1/8 and 1/4. You can see now very clearly that the eighths are way smaller than the fourths. So we cannot rely on just the numerators alone. So looking at these, I can see that 1/4 is bigger. Okay, so when you are comparing fractions with different denominators, the way you can do that when you don't have a picture to support you is by making equivalent fractions. Now, the way that you do that, or what that means, is you're going to be creating two new fractions that actually have the same denominator, okay? So if I have 1/2 and I'm comparing it to 3/5, you need to be doing the same thing to the numerator that you were doing to the denominator. So I'm going to take 1/2 and I'm going to multiply it by a whole. So I'm going to look at my other fraction I'm comparing it to. I have 3/5. If I was to turn 3/5 into one whole, it would actually be 5/5. So I'm going to multiply 1/2 by 5/5. So 1 times 5 is 5, and 2 times 5 is 10. Now I have 3/5 over here. If I'm going to do the same thing to the numerator and the denominator, I'm going to multiply it by this fraction's whole. So 1/2, if I were to turn that into a whole, it'd be 2/2. So I'm going to multiply 3 times 2, which is 6, and 5 times 2, which is 10. So I now have two new fractions that have the same denominator. And because we did this last week, this is very easy. You just have to look at the numerator, and 6/10 is bigger than 5/10, so therefore 3/5 is bigger than 1/2. Now let's go ahead and do one more example. We have 7/9 and we have 3/4. So remember, whatever we do to the numerator, we have to do to the denominator. So for 7/9, I'm going to look at my other fraction I'm comparing it to, 3/4. If I were to change 3/4 into one whole, it would be 4/4. So I'm now going to multiply 7/9 by 4/4. So I have 4 times 7, which is 28, and then 4 times 9, which is 36. I'm now going to look over at this fraction here. I have 3/4, and I'm going to be comparing it to 7/9. If I were to turn 7/9 into one whole, it would be 9/9. So I'm now turning this one, and multiplying this one by 9/9. So my new fraction is 3 times 9, which is 27, and 4 times 9, which is 36. And looking down here at our new fractions that have the same denominator, I can see that 7/9 is bigger than 3/4. Let's do one more example. We have 2/6 and 3/8. I want you guys to write these down on your whiteboards at home, and you're going to pause the video. I want you to try to create two equivalent fractions down here and compare them. So go ahead and pause the video, and you're going to create two equivalent fractions and compare them. Okay, so we have 2/6, and we're comparing it to 3/8. If I were to turn 3/8 into one whole, it would actually be 8/8. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply this by 8/8. So we have 8 times 2, which is 16, and 8 times 6, which is 48. I'm then going to go to this side. I have 3/8, and I'm comparing it to 2/6. If I was to take 2/6 and turn it into one whole, it would be 6/6. So I'm now multiplying this by 6/6. 3 times 6 is 18, and 8 times 6 is 48. I can now look at my numerators here at my new fractions, and I can easily draw my sign and say that 3/8 is bigger than 2/6. Now, there is an easier and faster way of doing this, and it's called cross multiplying. It's essentially the exact same thing as making equivalent fractions, just a little bit faster. So with cross multiplying, you're going to take the denominator of your first fraction and you're going to multiply it by the numerator of your second fraction. So we have 2 times 3, which is 6. Then you're going to take the numerator of your first fraction and multiply it by the denominator of your second fraction. So we have 5 times 1, which is 5. And then you simply look at these new numbers at the top here and you compare those. So I can tell that 6 is bigger than 5, so therefore 3/5 is bigger than 1/2. Let's go to our next example. We have 6/9 and we have 5/8. So again, you multiply the denominator of the first fraction with the numerator of the second. So we have 9 times 5, which is 45. And then we multiply the denominator of the second with the numerator of the first. So we have 6 times 8, which is 48. So we go ahead and look at our two new numbers on the top here. And we know 48 is bigger than 45. So therefore 6/9 is greater than 5/8. Our last example here, we have 7/8 and we are comparing it to 4/5. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw my X to show what numbers I am comparing and multiplying. So I have 7 times 5, which is 35, and 8 times 4, which is 32. And I know that 35 is greater than 32, which means 7/8 is greater than 4/5. Now, you guys are going to get a chance to practice. Let's start with the first one here. We have 3/4 and 4/5. I want you to write these two fractions on your whiteboard, and I want you to pause the video, and you are going to use cross multiplication to find out which fraction is bigger. Okay, here we go. 3/4 and 4/5. We're going to go ahead and we're going to draw our X to show what numbers we are multiplying. 4 times 4 is 16, and 5 times 3 is 15. I know that 16 is greater than 15, so I'm going to go ahead and draw my sign in to show that 4/5 is greater than 3/4. Let's go ahead and do our next one. We have 4/6 and 1/3. I want you to write these two fractions on your whiteboard, pause the video, and use cross multiplication to find out which one is bigger. Okay, here we go. You should have your X drawn like this to show what numbers you are multiplying. So we have 3 times 4, which is 12, 6 times 1, which is 6. And I can just look at the top numbers here. I know 12 is bigger, therefore 4/6 is greater than 1/3. Let's go ahead and do these last two together. So I want you to write 5/8 and 5/6, and then 2/6 and 1/3 on your whiteboard. You're now going to pause the video, and I want you to compare these fractions using cross multiplication. Okay, here we go, last one. 5/8 and 5/6. I'm going to go ahead and draw my X to show the numbers I am multiplying. I have 6 times 5, which is 30, and then I have 8 times 5, which is 40. My sign should be facing this way. 5/6 is bigger than 5/8. And then my last one, I'm going to draw my X like this. 3 times 2 is 6, and 6 times 1 is 6. And then we can see right here that's actually equal. 2/6 is equal to 1/3. Okay, and that is where we are going to stop. So you're going to go back into your Chillin' with Chankasing Week 3 document, and there's a bunch of different worksheets in there that are going to help you practice comparing fractions with different denominators. Please make sure that you are reading the instructions carefully. If you have any questions, please message me and I will help. Your next lesson is going to be ordering multiple fractions with different denominators.